What's up, Shred Sexies? Welcome back. Death to the fingers. Looks like the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Good times. Canada's just melting down. Oh, man. Are we ever in for some rough times? Uh-oh. We kind of brought it on ourselves a little bit, right? But, yeah. We got problems here, Houston. Damn. So, I thought we could start off today with this really interesting video that I saw. This guy talking about basically fake guitars and stuff like that. But we already know the fake guitar Instagram thing. If you can't make it, you got to fake it now. And here's the thing. People are so lazy that they just won't actually invest the time and effort into it. After 2 years. Now, listen, it wasn't a full, work on it every single day for 2 years, but it took me 2 years to go from like, okay, these mixes are okay, to finishing. I finished the song, the last track, 17 minutes. It's a monster, sounds killer, but I finished the master, 2 years. That's what I'm talking about. These kids just want instant gratification, so they'll become the masters of Da Vinci Resolve or whatever, some other video editing program, and then just get really good at that and put out videos where it's clearly obvious they're not playing the actual music. I noticed this first with a guitar player named Buried Alive. I mean, the music is weird for sure. It's innovative in a way, but it's like this, it's what I call what's that really annoying music style in electronic music? Dubstep? That was what it was, with like the Skrillex people and all the rest of this, where it's just this absolutely bombastic nonsense. That's what his music's like, but with a guitar. So, yeah, it's been going on for a while. That goes back to the old days, but the thing is, he's like, most of these people can't even play these songs or whatnot in a live context, and I'm just like, he's kind of saying the quiet part out loud right now. Is just, I mean, if you're an up and coming musician, I mean, there should be a real sort of reflective period where you're like, is touring really even an option? I mean, if you want to tour around in a van and do your thing and whatnot, sure, go for it. Will it get you anywhere remotely close to your goals? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But realistically speaking, the number of people that actually make it by going that route is very, very, very low. Now, listen, they go significantly higher if you're a pretty girl. Don't shoot the messenger, man. Saw one yesterday. I'm like, I've never even heard this person. I guess they're a pretty good musician. I mean, for what it is. But they're kind of blowing up, I guess. You could say, in the music world, for the music that they're doing. I can't even remember their name, but I'm just like, the only real reason why people are listening to your music is because you're hot. Saw the exact same thing today. There was some German chick on the internet being like, I'm being politically prosecuted or persecuted or whatever you want to call it, and then she's like, I want to. I'm seeking, asylum status in the United States, and not a single person cared. They're just like, yeah, she's hot. Come to the United States. It's just like that. I don't make the rules, man. Don't shoot the messenger. So, I'm not trying to knock the music skills and whatnot, but it seems that, I call it the OnlyFans effect, even though that's more towards whatever, LeBron. But in this case, it's just like, like we have so many desperate men that they're just lonely, I guess. I mean, I don't really understand it. I'm hyper antisocial now in my old age. So for me, the idea of hanging out with another person for an extended period of time that I haven't known for a long time, and even the people that I do know, we don't hang out for extended periods of time for 2-3 hours, especially when we're working on music, and that's it. We're in, we're out. And actually, honestly, it works out better for everybody, because We get in there, we do what we need to get done, and then it's over. And you know what I mean? There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, instead of like this weird sort of, oh, it never ends, and rushing and putting all kinds of pressure and stress. You just, all right, we have this much time to get some work done. Let's do it. And then we just keep pecking away at it over the span of months or years or whatever it is. But that's how I like to roll. But a lot of people, I think, because of the world we're living in right now, is they're just desperate for some sort of human connection. You know what I mean? Like they're reaching out because they're just feeling incredibly isolated. So I get that. So ultimately what happens is you get these big fan bases developing, and it's mostly around, I'd sleep with that person more so than I'm like, yeah, I love their music. It's like the music's good and she's hot. Like Sydney Sweeney. That's a classic example. Pretty girl and everything like that, with some impressive assets. If you saw the internet this morning. But it's not like, she's the best actress in the world or anything like that. Most of the movies she's been in or TV shows are basically forgettable. So I don't know. You tell me. There was another girl too. What was her name? Sydney something else. And she was like a UFC girl, although she went up and then just kind of plateaued and immediately dropped off. I think she kind of blew her own foot off, because as soon as she got famous, she dumped her boyfriend, and then that became like common knowledge. And of course, that's the kiss of death. We live in weird times, man. We live in incredibly weird times. But, the fact of the matter is that the whole era of huge bands and world tours and massive concerts and all the rest of that stuff is just slowly coming to an end. You know what I mean? And once the mega bands, the Megadeths, the Metallicas and AC/DCs and everything, and Judas Priest, they all sort of pack it in and they're like, I'm done. I just saw that Steve Morris is like, yeah, I can't really play anymore. I have arthritis in my hands and I think my touring days are done. I saw yesterday Faith No More is like, we're done. I don't know what's going on there. I think Mr. Bungle's still touring, but as far as Faith No More, which is really too bad, because Epic and then Angel Dust specifically, and then of course whatever it is, album of the year. There's King for a Day, which is pretty good too, but I prefer album of the year. They're just like insanely good, you know what I mean? So we lost a real special music luminary there, unfortunately. But you know how it is, bands are like families. I'm seeing this now. I follow this cool channel, Guitar Meets Science or something like that. I can't remember, but he just does like these little tiny 10-minute exposés about what happened to like famous bands in the 80s, mostly hair metal stuff, but it's just fun and entertaining, and you can just see that it's a mess. It's just a mess. Every single time, man, a band gets famous or something like that, the whatever, the ugly head of whatever sort of negativity rises up, you know what I mean? It may be avarice, it could be ego, could be greed, who knows. It just ends it. It just ends the band. And they gotta limp on, and sometimes, they make a comeback or whatever it is. I just saw one recently about Vixen. I mean, that one was hilarious because, girls are basically pretty evil to each other. They hate not being the center of attention. There's like ridiculous levels of competition between themselves. And that's basically what tanked the band over and over and over again. Just wild, really. So, ultimately, those days are coming to an end. Like everything else. I saw a video yesterday, two of them actually, one from a great channel called Moon, just about how there's this huge sort of exodus, if you will, of people leaving the internet. Mostly social media and stuff like that. They still do all the regular sort of mundane tasks, check your banking, pay your bills, look stuff up, maybe buy some stuff, learn how to do something. But as far as the engaging in social media, absolutely understand it, because there's nothing really redeeming about the internet anymore. Like, you go on Twitter, it's just like this grievance factory. Now, listen, I don't have a problem with it because I like to keep up with current events and I don't mind arguing with people. I love arguing with people, but you know what I mean? Like, the fun parts have been taken out. Some of my favorite channels or feeds or whatever you want to call that, accounts, they got wiped out. They're just like, I'm done, and just stopped doing it. And now YouTube's going the same way. The big channels were warning about it for a long, long time. And now they're like, listen, they're basically laying off all the old guard, the people that built the whatever, I'm going to call it second wave YouTube, right? Because there's the first wave where it was just total lawlessness. It was awesome. That was like the best time. That was the best time for the internet, period. It was just like this lawless, wild, wild west kind of vibe. And you could do whatever it is that you wanted. It was just great. It was just great. So, you know, that's really missed. But then, of course, they brought in all these controls and stuff, and they just wanted to turn the internet into some sort of money-making scheme. And they did. And so you kind of got the second wave internet, but there was some decent stuff because obviously the quality of video and the amount of effort going into producing good content on YouTube went up dramatically. It was no longer cat videos and people getting drunk and falling into the water or whatever it is. It's more like, here's a cool documentary about history or something like that. They clearly took a long time to do, and a huge amount of research went into it. I don't know if you've ever seen one called Fall of Civilizations, one of the best channels on the entirety ever of YouTube, like the best channel when it comes to history. There's no comparison. That's what I'm talking about. 3-hour documentary on the Assyrians and stuff like that, or, something else. Just basically every major sort of civilizational rise and fall done in exhaustive detail. It's just fascinating stuff. You could sit there literally for 3 hours. Well, maybe not everybody. I won the history award when I was in high school. So, take it with a grain of salt, but I found myself just being able to sit there for hours and hours and hours and watch these things. Plus, of course, you can just stop halfway through at an hour and a half and just pick it up the next day. It's pretty cool. So, those channels are basically gone now. They just don't want to do it anymore. There's no more opportunity. Once they took the money away, once they took the incentive away to sort of want to be successful, and tell me if you're noticing a pattern here. The quality went down, people lost interest, and now they're just checking out of the internet altogether. And of course, YouTube is tanking because after they fire all the old guard, all that's going to be left is like these AI bots that, spam it with all their nonsense videos, which there are many, and what I call fluff accounts, which are, they're fun and everything like that, but do you really need 14 channels of a dose of the daily internet or whatever it is, with memes and sort of like funny situational stuff like that? And again, I follow like 2 channels that do pets and stuff because after my dog died, I couldn't get another dog because I just was so utterly crushed. I don't know if anybody else is like that. I was just so hurt. Honestly, I think it's because deep down inside, I knew that as crazy as this is going to sound, that dog, my chocolate lab, was the only living thing in the entire world between like 2000 and like 2008, or it was a little bit before then, whatever, 2009 kind of situation, that ever actually cared about me. After I got divorced and got thrown out of my house and stuff like that, the dog died 2 weeks later, just laid down on the ground and died. I never recovered, ever. So now I watch the pet stuff and I laugh and it's like fun and stuff, and I don't ever have to feel the pain. I get to live vicariously through somebody else. But that was one of the darkest days in my entire life. Take that, internet. So, it is what it is, but that's just it. You can see every sort of metric, video games taking a major hit, right? They keep trying to release these ridiculously woke games. It's funny, I saw this one for, what was it, Outer Worlds 2, never even heard of it, but then, of course, somebody's got to post, like, the shot, and it's like, the the social justice check boxes have all been, dutifully, executed kind of dealio. I watched Ghostbusters, The Frozen Empire, I think it was called, last night. I was just like, I'm too lazy to actually do anything of substance right now. Just put on some dumb movie. I'm like, I don't think I've seen this. And of course, again, it's exact same situation. Could have been a good movie. Could have been cool, maybe even. It was definitely a big step down from the previous one, which I think was called Afterlife, which was, again, a step down from Ghostbusters 2, and nothing's really ever measured up to the first one. I mean, they've been kind of close, but that one's so awesome. I've watched it 100 times. But the later ones, not so much. And yeah, it's just, there's an Indian guy there, and the lesbian couple, and an Asian kid. And listen, I'm not against this kind of plurality and whatnot, but when it seems so forced and so obvious like that, it just doesn't make sense. It's like you're trying too hard. It's like when you see a musician like go so over the top, like shred, like they're playing a blues lick, and then this guy just goes full Malmsteen. You know what I mean? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Like it any. Wow. Anyways, so, there's a combination of things going on right now. You saw the boomer guitar wars. So Nostalgia's dying. I can get him out. Nostalgia. That's close enough. That's dead. I barely see any channels anymore talking about, it's funny now. My Twitter feed is basically purged all the sort of like lesser sort of irreverent stuff, like talking about metal bands or music, or the science stuff has pretty much been wiped out. Engineering wiped out. I followed a couple that were like making you learn new words. I haven't seen anything from them in months and months and months. Maybe they left, maybe they stopped posting. It's possible, but I can tell you that Twitter for sure is like committed to basically trying to, make you angry and furiously type away on your keyboard, which is just a giant time soak. You know what I mean? It's kind of stupid. You're not going to change the world that way. Unfortunately, I wish it was that easier. It's just not. You got to fight the old fashioned way. So, and I mean, literally take things to court and all the rest. I don't mean actually getting into a fist fight, but you might have to, because the world's going crazy right now. I just don't even understand it anymore. I don't even go outside anymore, really, not at a time when there's anybody really around, because it's just don't trust myself, and I just don't want to be exposed to those situations. You know what I mean? Like I just don't have time for the bullshit anymore. To be perfectly honest with you, I realize that the world is basically getting lit up. And I'm not saying that I'm not fighting. I'm doing what I can do, but I'm just one guy. You know what I mean? So you got to sort of temper it with what you can actually accomplish, realistically speaking, and just take it slowly, kind of thing, like anything else. And of course, I've mentioned it many times. You should always diversify your interests. That's why I'm into the law and music and recording technology, reading books, science, the whole nine yards. Like each one of those things, I'm skilled in some sort of, manifest way, if you will, but, I wouldn't consider myself to be the master of any of them. I just like to I'm the master at learning. That's my super skill. You know what I mean? I can pick up things incredibly fast because I've honed my mind to essentially be able to absorb information and then make it instantly usable, which is nice. I don't know if that's a really useful skill or anything like that, but it's good enough. So, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like the twilight is upon us. You know what I mean? The twilight of the old music industry, that's finally being washed away. And now, once all the big bands are like, we don't want to do this anymore because we don't care. We're already multi-bazillionaires and we don't really need to anymore. The whole thing is just going to collapse. Like a rotten floor, just go snap. And all the sort of up and coming bands that are in the basement right now are just going to get buried under the rubble and they'll never be able to get out. because none of them have the millions and millions and millions of dollars necessary to be able to do a proper tour and build up a significant enough following to make them relevant. And you can just see a lot of bands are just sort of checking out altogether. They're not even touring anymore at all. They just do studio stuff, which I totally get. If you're serious about music and you're like, okay, it doesn't really matter. I know I'm not going to make any money. I'm never even going to become famous. I probably never even get into the industry itself, blah, 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 all the rest of it. If that's you, but you're still like, I still love music, then like I said, the best thing you can do for yourself is start making your own music and try to do it from home. And of course, you can just adapt over later on to doing live shows just right out of your own place and stream them on the internet, which can be very, very lucrative. Why tour at all? If I can get 1 million people to watch me on the internet do something, which may or may not be realistic, I don't know, but isn't that preferable than playing to 1 million people over 6 months or a year by touring the world? It's not as cool, it's not as exhilarating, sure, but it pays the bills, right? And that's kind of, you got to make money to spend, or you got to spend money to make money and all the rest of that. So you need a source of income, or else you're just going to be, constantly shelling it out of your own pocket, which takes that money away from somewhere else. You know what I mean? Now, listen, I was a fat bastard, so I didn't mind sacrificing some food money over the past year to just basically dump into music, because I was like, I need to scale down to just eat 1 meal a day anyway, so I can drop 100 pounds. And I've basically dropped 80 and I'm working on the last 20, which is the worst, but it is what it is. But that's the mindset there. You know what I mean? And the thing is we're just going to have to accept, like during the tail end of what I call the CD years, before Napster came on, people were really, really unhappy and stuff like that. And then Napster came out, and it's what I call creative destruction. Now, listen, it was kind of a malevolent force, and it didn't have a great sort of impact on the music situation. But in a way, in its own way, I guess you could say, it did sort of level the playing field and let other sort of lesser known bands sort of rise to the top, right? And get a chance to basically compete with a lot bigger bands that were the sole focus of record companies because they're money makers. You know what I mean? Which is weird, because the music has to be good in order for people to like it, to spend money on, for you to become the money maker and stuff like that. But if you can never get the music out there, you can never attain the other two statuses to basically create the loop. So, not a great business strategy there, I guess, but whatever. It is what it is. So, there was this really fertile period between 2000 and about 2020, really, where you just had a lot of amazing bands come out and just blow people's minds. It was great. But that's ending, because now there's no money on the internet. You're competing with millions and millions of other bands. And worse off yet is that AI is just becoming like this caustic cancer spreading everywhere. And it's really not good. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I understand it's useful and stuff like that. It really is useful in certain sort of aspects, but overall it's a force for destruction that's actually dragging humanity down in terms of creative endeavors, in terms of critical thinking skills, in terms of creativity, period. You know what I mean? Nobody's like, I'll sit down and type this letter out or something like that. They just go to AI and type a few sentences in and get it to write the letter for them. I don't think that makes sense. Should never pass up an opportunity to hone your skills. You should use AI to come up with the information you're going to use in your letter. Let it do all the legwork of searching the entire internet and coming up with the most important points that you can then incorporate in your own words with your own ideas into whatever it is the letter is going to say or address. Right? It's the same thing with music. You go out, you watch some lessons and stuff like that. You don't play the stuff verbatim that was in the lesson. You try to absorb it on a deeper level and be like, what does this mean to me as a musician? And then try to reconfigure that information and spit it out in your own way. That's why every time you see somebody play the minor pentatonic, it comes out slightly different. Unless you're in the blues. Those people seem to be a little bit stuck in whatever that sort of 1960 to like 1985, Stevie Ray Vaughan tail end kind of situation. And it never really progressed from there. Now, there are a few players and stuff, but I wouldn't even consider them to be blues players anymore. They're more like fusion blues players, right? Like fusion players that predominantly have a blues slant, because I didn't really hear too many diminished runs in the old days. I certainly didn't hear Stevie diving into the diminished. So make of that what you will, but the old world is dying, if you will. The old new world is dying, and a new order, I guess you could say, is developing. The question is are we going to demand a certain measure of excellence from here on out, or are we just going to sort of be like, all right, it is what it is? I don't know. I don't really know what the solution is. I think you should just put your head down and concentrate on the self, look out for your family, and prepare for the worst. Prepare for a situation where you're going to be like, it's really going to suck bad for 2 years. Like, I mean, as bad or worse than COVID-19, when they were locking everybody in their houses and doing all that crazy stuff. You should pretty much expect another round of that before the vast majority of the people that are sleeping right now, just trying to keep their head down and survive, finally wake up and be like, it's just not going to go away if I ignore it. Ayn Rand, not my favorite author, but you can ignore reality. You just can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. She's a wordy biatch, but man, was that statement ever true. Like on orders of magnitude. So that's what I'm talking about. And then we can have a better society, because people will return to the things that actually matter. Genuine and sort of actual inspiration and creativity with a new slant. I literally saw that they're going to try to do like phase 5 and 6 of like the Marvel superhero era stuff in movies. And I'm just like, what? Bro, listen, the last 3 or 4 that you put out bombed. They bombed. Nobody's even going to them. Nobody's even torrenting them, probably. Who wants to watch that? It's just brutal. Right? Like, why? But that's just it. I personally, and I'll leave it at this, I believe that this is controlled demolition. I believe that they're doing it on purpose to remove your ability to actually unplug from all the negativity, because there's a psychological control factor there when you're constantly being bombarded with bad news. You kind of go into this weird REM state, if you will, and just kind of go on autopilot, and it becomes difficult to think and discern reality. It's sort of the function of ideological subversion. And that's just playing out across every single industry: video games, movies, music, politics, and in all the social stuff, even though some positives have come out of it. You know what I mean? The collapse of the whole transgender stuff, the Bill Gates coming out and being like, yeah, climate change, not actually really a thing. I couldn't believe that this morning when he did a total 180. I'm just like, wow. I made a post on it. I was like, oh, okay. So not real. So can we get all our money back? You basically scooped up $1 trillion over the last 20 years, pumping this lie. And now all of a sudden you're like, well, hold on, pump the brakes. And listen, we have environmental problems. There's no doubt about it. But, we're all going to get ended because it goes up by 1 degree. That might be a little extreme. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's a huge change coming, and we're going to have to weather the storm. And the thing is if you're a creative like me, you're going to have to learn to manage the reality of the world that we live in mentally, and just be like, not let that affect you in terms of your creative output. And again, like I said, put your nose to the grindstone, set a serious goal, and then work your ass off to get there. And you'll be like doing a master of a 17-minute song after 2 years too, and be like, that sounds almost as good as anything that I've heard on the internet right now. And honestly, mine sounded as good or better than some of the other masters that I heard. We'll see what everybody else thinks, but I thought it was pretty damn close, and I worked my butt off. And on Tuesday, I'm going to show you how I did the master, just so we can cover that and get it out of the way, because I've had some questions on it. But ultimately, that's where it is. So, the page is being turned. The question is are you going to write your story in there, or are you going to continue to read the script that was already pre-written on it? Food for thought. See you in the next one.